All right, joining us now is Breitbart politics editor Emma Jo Morris. Emma Jo, thank you so much for coming on the program. Now, you famously testified to Congress about the censorship of the reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop. I wanted to get your reaction to Mark Zuckerberg's revelations about COVID censorship and other censorship on Meta.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. That's right, I did. I testified at the Weaponization of Government Committee on the fact that there's been copious amounts of information that have come out before this, including from Mark Zuckerberg, by the way, in an interview on Joe Rogan's show in 2022, where he talked about, and there's so much documentation and data that backs this up, that the government was absolutely coercing these companies. They were corresponding with these companies on a constant basis, literally round the clock, on any number of topics, not only the Hunter Biden laptop, but also COVID, especially any number of political opinions that they basically just found disfavorable, but labeled as disinformation. To the extent that, at least at Twitter, there was a group chat among managers at Twitter and members of the FBI that they called a virtual war room. So this is a pervasive and systemic problem that's going on all social media platforms. And then again, this week, Mark Zuckerberg says that we basically knew better, but the government was pressuring us so much that we acquiesced and complied, and I regret that. So how there's no consequences for this is beyond me. The Supreme Court heard a case on this just a couple months ago. They ruled on it and basically said that it was too far of a leap to say that the government was coercing the companies. Meanwhile, the CEO of the biggest one, Meta, is saying the exact opposite.
It's pretty worrisome to me. I mean, as somebody who loves the First Amendment and the Constitution and free speech and a free press, does it concern you, though, that one of the chief engineers of this during the Biden administration is now helping to run Kamala Harris's campaign? And if, you know, she gets up and becomes the next president, might have some sort of very senior job doing exactly this again.
Well, that's basically the official position of this campaign. I mean, Tim Walz, there's clips from him just from a couple weeks ago, her vice presidential pick, talking about how disinformation needs to be censored, disinformation is dangerous. I've never seen Kamala Harris coming out in support of, you know, some sort of First Amendment policy, some sort of First Amendment protection. She's never spoken out on these multiple scandals that involve her administration, which she is in. It might come as a surprise if anyone has been reading mainstream media from the U.S., but she is the current vice president, and she's never commented on any of this, not a single word. So you have to imagine that's a comment in and of itself, right? And I don't find it shocking nor surprising that she has this person in her campaign and at such a high level at that. This seems to be her policy.
Now, I want to move on to a big policy drop we just had from Donald Trump a little while ago, which I think is going to be fascinating given about the debate around women, families, and the gender gap that the Trump campaign is experiencing. He has basically said IVF is going to be government funded, or insurance companies will have to fund IVF if he is reelected. Have a look at this.
And we are going to be, under the Trump administration, we are going to be paying for that treatment. So we are paying for that treatment.
All Americans who want it?
For all Americans that get it, all Americans that need it. So we're going to be paying for that treatment, or we're going to be mandating that the insurance company pay.
Now, I'm already seeing some conservatives gripe at the cost of this, but it does seem to me that if you want to be a pro-family administration, this might be one way to get there. What are your thoughts?
First of all, yes, absolutely. That's absolutely right. It's like, it's one thing to call yourself pro-life, but in order to be pro-life, in my opinion, you have to actually support life and support Americans' ability to have families, right? Like, isn't that the point? But to the people who gripe about the cost of this, especially on the Republican side, that is such a joke to me. I can't even take it seriously. If you look at the first 1,000 things that the Republican Congress spends money on, we're talking about gender studies programs in Pakistan, and that is not a joke. That is not a joke. That is literally something that the United States pays for. If you're going to tell me, as a Republican lawmaker who voted for this spending bill that they just passed with this massive spending, let alone what we're sending to Ukraine for a war that I can't discern any national interest in, but forget that. I'm talking about, they spend money on, another one is observing shrimps on a treadmill, okay? So with spending like that, and you're gonna say that a cost that would be probably around $8 billion is just a bridge too far, it's like, you're a clown.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the only place I want to observe shrimp are in a cocktail with some nice sauce and some lettuce in a cup. But also another big controversy here this week here, J.D. Vance has come out swinging at the Harris campaign after they, for their botched withdrawal from Afghanistan 3 years ago. Have a look at this.
Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Now, the context for this came after a spokesperson for the Harris campaign said that there was an altercation at Arlington National Cemetery, which the media has blown out of proportion, was sad and not surprising. Tell us about what happened at Arlington here, because it seems to me they're trying to stitch Trump up again on this. What's this all about?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. This sounds like such a hoax. This sounds like another one of their hoaxes where they call attention to something that Trump maybe did or maybe didn't do. I don't know. Apparently, it was something about cameras, having cameras present at the ceremony, even though that doesn't make a ton of sense because there's tons of footage ostensibly taken by a camera of Joe Biden walking through Arlington at various ceremonies that have been held there. So I don't really understand the story, but leave it to the media to scandalize Trump participating in a memorial that was the result of gross incompetence and negligence by the U.S. government that has never been properly scrutinized, in my opinion. I mean, what was he there for? What can we talk about? What was he there for? It was unforgivable. And that is just so classic. It's so textbook of the U.S. media. They are just so partisan and activist. They lose the plot.
And it's, don't blame us for Afghanistan. Blame this guy for going to a memorial for the people who died there. Hey, one more quick one for you. There's more and more crazy economic stuff coming out of the Harris policy dribs and drabs leaks we're getting here. They're now promising another $25,000 to help new home buyers buy a home. Do these guys have any idea how inflation and markets work at all?
Yeah, it's the most insane thing. And then this, by the way, was, sorry, not the most insane thing. This is probably the second most insane thing. The first being her proposition at the same time that she made this proposal to control the price of food. So that should go well.
Emma Jo Morris, we're going to have to leave it there. The idea of these guys controlling house prices, food prices, pretty scary. Thank you so much for your time, Emma Jo Morris.